welcome. Great to get to have a bit of a conversation with you. We were just trying to navigate a little problem where people joining one way weren't able to hear, or at least some of them were. So trying to get it so everybody's connected before we really start. But I think we probably should. Yeah. So we'll officially start, but of course everyone is welcome, and we know that you might need to go. That's fine too. You know, just really welcome this opportunity to connect a little bit. So I'm Alicia Luxted. I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, and I am one of the 3 co-chairs of the Internalized Stigma Interest Group, which is across all kinds of stigmatized identities and health conditions, focusing on internalized and self-stigma and resilience and reducing around that. Emily, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll do a little bit of intro so people know where they're at.
Sure, yeah. So I am Emily. I'm another one of the co-chairs of this interest group. I'm a graduate student in the clinical psychology PhD program at the University of California, Irvine. So joining you all from the West Coast today. And yeah, I first attended this conference a couple of years back and got involved with this group. And it's been great to just connect with other people who have similar interests in internalized stigma and a really wide range of experiences. So we're really glad that you all are joining us today.
Yeah. So after the
she was going to New York or something. Well, Dara called me. It's done been now over a week ago.
We can hear your phone conversation, just so you know. This interest group was restarted a bit after the conference 2 years ago. And as it happens, Emily and I and Joe DeLuca are the 3 co-chairs. He's not able to be here, but I want to make clear from the start that we are open to sharing that leadership and energy and decision making with anyone who is interested. We reinvigorated the interest group because there seemed to be interest in people meeting each other who are also working in some way or interested in the area of internalized stigma across different stigmatized conditions and identities. So just want to give you a tiny bit of introduction, because we are not doing a business meeting this hour, more as it says, a conversation or a community hour. So our interest group focuses around networking and exchanging ideas and resources and helping each other in whatever the work is that different people are doing, particularly around this issue of self-stigma or internalized stigma in different ways, but other things as well. We have a listserv to stay in touch with each other. We have monthly Zoom gatherings, and everybody is welcome. If you are interested in being added to that email group and to get the notices for the monthly meetings, just email Emily or me. We'll put our addresses in the chat, or if you're comfortable putting yours in the chat, we will write it down and then send you, a subscription to the group. We also really welcome others getting involved in the quote unquote running of this group. We have no interest in holding on to leadership as some sort of turf, or people who are interested in using the group as a jumping off point for projects or a theme for a monthly meeting discussion or anything like that. So we really welcome that. I was saying at the beginning that we don't intend today to be a business meeting. Rather, every monthly meeting, we have some people who return and some people who are new to that one meeting, and everybody consistently says that what they feel like they need is to connect and learn from each other and help each other doing internalized stigma work, whether that's advocacy, education, research, writing, art, all sorts of things. So we tried to craft a way to spend this hour together in support of that need. And we'll see how it goes. I mean, we have 2 things that we were thinking of trying to do together as a group, but even that, we're flexible on that. before we get going, Emily, would you give a plug to the panel on Thursday just to draw people's attention to that?
Yes, absolutely. So our group has been working on planning a panel for this conference, which is happening on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And in the Whova app, it's under Research Plenary 3, and the panel is called Internalized Stigma, Dangers, Resilience, and Intersectionality. We're very excited about it. We have several speakers with diverse perspectives and experiences with internalized stigma and internalized stigma work. So we'll be discussing what internalized stigma is during that panel, why it's important to think about and talk about internalized stigma in mental health, in HIV, in intersectionality, and stigma resilience and advocacy. So we'll be kind of bridging research in the field, creative awareness and advocacy campaigns, and personal experiences as well during that panel. So again, it's Thursday at 9:30 a.m. and we hope to see you there.
Thanks for that plug. If anybody has other sessions that you're presenting or you're particularly involved with, please feel free to either put it in the chat to help promote that with others, or when you speak to, briefly, please, do a little plug, because it's all about networking. So like I was saying, we have monthly meetings, and at the last several of them, we've been talking about what could we do at the conference. The panel that Emily mentioned is one of those things that people from the group put together. This conversation hour, doing it not as like a meeting, but as another form of exchanging ideas, was the other one. So if you're able to turn on your camera, it just helps with interacting with each other, but okay if you don't want to or can't. So we were thinking, okay, a group of people who mostly don't know each other in the midst of a conference with, it ends up being 40 minutes by the time all the comings and goings happen. What could actually be done to serve the need people keep talking about of connection and exchange? So maybe it's a little gimmicky, but we thought we would try sort of like a I don't know, a speed discussion or something, to have a couple of time-focused open discussions. So rather than just let it go wherever for a whole hour, have a couple of questions that have come up time and again as we were talking, and just see who wants to speak to them. We're going to try 10 minutes each. Everybody is encouraged to unmute and speak spontaneously if you're able to do that and comfortable with that, or put ideas in the chat if you prefer. And everyone is encouraged to briefly introduce yourself the first time you speak, and to really join in the conversation, while of course at the same time paying attention to who else is waiting to speak because they're unmuted or has their hand up, who has not spoken. Just kind of attend to that, but please don't hold yourself back either. I'll moderate a little bit if needed, looking for hands and trying to help if needed. So we really want to encourage you that as people do speak, note those you'd like to follow up with for more in-depth conversation, or to contact them about what they're talking about through the conference app or this session's chat, or however you want to, of course, because we're trying to build community that goes beyond just this brief conversation hour. And so I'll keep rough time and then suggest the next topic after about 10 minutes, sort of like speed dating, but for idea exchange. So if you're game for trying it, please jump in. For our first question is pretty straightforward. What internalized stigma programs or campaigns or other efforts are you involved with that you want others to know about? And feel free to tell us how we can support them as well. So, what internalized work are you involved with? Anybody? What do you want to know from us? What would be helpful from others? Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I will start. This is Marcia, and I will say I'm not involved in any work of the nature. I'm not outwardly a promoter, or I'm not, how do you say it, a speaker of such where I'm open to speak about this topic of stigma because I feel stigmatized. So that's why. And so I pretty much joined in to get positive feedback from other people and from you as professionals on how I can feel more comfortable about this whole topic, of stigma because it's real. And I had this conversation with my doctor who thought, oh, I thought that was a long time ago. You still feel it? And I told her, yeah, it's not, it hasn't really gone away. It's gotten better, but you know, so, so I'm
Yeah.
not involved.
Oh, thanks, Marcia. That's work in itself for sure, and right what we're talking about. So you're asking for positive feedback of how to deal with this is just exactly the kind of networking we could do. And others feel free to jump in with if you have ideas. I think that Lloyd was also wanting to speak, and maybe Cassandra, but oh, and Rick?
Well, actually, there is a campaign that that I would like to talk about. It's called The Day with HIV, and it's the anti-stigma campaign produced by Positively Aware magazine, where what we do is we portray 24 hours in the
Oh my
lives of
God, why
people.
would you have my video on here?
I'm sorry?
I think she didn't know that she was unmuted. Please.
All right, well, the idea behind A Day with HIV is to show how we're all affected by HIV, and it's still regardless of status, regardless of who we are or where we are. And we try to portray 24 hours in the lives of people with HIV. I think there's somebody else who either wants to talk or maybe doesn't know that they are unmuted.
Hey, Lord.
Yes, we're hearing humming.
I think we're hearing you, Lloyd.
My phone's not on.
Yeah, I don't know if somebody from our production team is on that can mute everybody and then just you only unmute.
I think that's a
when
great
you're
idea
talking.
because I can hear the humming when I was talking all over me.
Yeah,
So
no, and
it doesn't
I am not
to
able
talk.
to do that. Yes, so sorry.
Yeah,
But
in a way that's sort of stigmatizing too, because it shows it's a form of thoughtlessness that and lack of etiquette when we fail to mute ourselves. The idea behind A Day with HIV is to portray 24 hours in the lives of people affected by HIV, and that's all of us. And so in what we do is we pick the first day of autumn, which is a changing of the seasons because we want to change people's minds about HIV and stigma. And so we ask people to photograph a moment of their day on that first day of autumn, post it to their social media with the time and location of their picture. And it's an opportunity for people to share their story and something of their lives. And we did this past September, and we featured pictures from the campaign in the November-December issue of the magazine. In fact, we do 4 different versions of our cover. And here, real quick, I'll just show you 3 of those versions. This is a long-term survivor living with HIV, and we paired her with a transgender young person from Arizona. This is probably my favorite cover. This baby was born on the first day of autumn to a mother who is living with HIV. And at the same time, on the same day, in England, this gentleman celebrated his 80th birthday, a long-term survivor of HIV. Anyway, to make this more timely, we're having a webinar on November 30th to celebrate World AIDS Day, where we're going to feature some of the people who took pictures from the campaign, and we're going to have them talk about their stories, why they took part in the campaign, and what has happened in their lives since posting their pictures. So if you don't mind, I'm going to enter into the chat the URL where you can register for our webinar the afternoon of November 30th. But the campaign is really driven by the people who take part in it. And it's a very affirming and very open-ended campaign to get people to open up and share their stories and share their lives.
Thanks, Rick. And so everyone, if you have comments on that, or if you have something else, the question on the table is, what programs or interests or other efforts are you involved with that you want others to know about, and how can we help support them? So everything from Marsha, your very personal story, to Rick, your publication and your very global story. What else are people doing? But I believe, Lloyd, at one point, did you want to speak? Sorry, don't really know people, but I can just use the names that are on the squares. Who else wants to address that question?
Hi, hello.
Yes, please.
Yes, hi. So my name's Bernice. I'm a second-year PhD student and infectious disease nurse practitioner in Baltimore. So my research interest is really looking at how different mechanisms that basically go into the disproportionate impact of HIV and STIs for Black women, because oftentimes we're like left out of the conversation because there is such a focus on MSM populations and LGBTQ. So I'm trying to bring more focus and inclusion of Black women into this conversation and into this space, because there is a lack of awareness even among Black women and among providers. So there's a lot of bias that keeps Black women continue to be like disproportionately impacted by HIV and STIs. So that's kind of the space where I bring in stigma and bias into some of the work that I do.
Bernice, thank you for joining the conversation hour today. Is there something that people in this group might be able to do to support the work you're doing?
Yes, I'm not sure exactly like how and why, how really, because I don't really know what everyone does, but I did love Rick's presentation, or what he presented, showing the publications and having more representation out there, because that's one of the other factors I think Black women aren't really seen in the media and the marketing for things like PrEP. So I was going to try to like connect with Rick to see what his ideas were about that and marketing efforts, because I really loved the images he showed, and I think that's a very useful tool to get the faces out there and show everyone that this is like everyday people, and it's not like these othering of people that happens all the time.
Right, and maybe others will have ideas for you. So I see that several other people have joined in the last few minutes, so I'm just going to reiterate. Hi, welcome. You've reached the conversation hour for the Internalized Stigma Interest Group, where we are supporting each other in working on internalized stigma in a variety of different ways across a variety of different stigmatized life situations, health conditions, and other things. I would say in our monthly meetings and our not terribly active email, most of us involved either in HIV and or mental health, but also other people as well, joined together by the dynamics of internalized stigma. So at every monthly meeting that we have, and sometimes on the email, people often talk about wanting to connect, wanting to cross-pollinate ideas, wanting to support each other. So that's what we're trying to do here, kind of on the fly at the conference, is a brief kind of focused conversations. If you have a project, a need, a effort that a campaign you're involved with that you want others to know about, and how can we support that? We have a couple minutes left in that. We were sort of doing several focused discussions, but a couple minutes left in that. If anybody else have something you're working on personally, professionally, advocacy, activism that relates to internalized stigma you want the network to know about?
Hi, I don't know if you guys can see me. I'm on my phone because I couldn't get on my desktop, but this is Trang. And can everyone hear me sort of okay?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Rick, and thank you to Bernice. I wanted to share sorry, I'm Trang Wizard. You see my maiden name here, so Trang Nguyen Wizard, and I am at the Centers for Disease Control, and we have a big, national HIV campaign, which is called Let's Stop HIV Together. And within that, there's lots of components. Our 4 main topics are HIV prevention, HIV testing, HIV stigma, and HIV treatment. And so thank you, Rick, for sharing what you're doing. Specifically, my work is focused on stigma. And so what we have done through the years and what we're continuing to build on is to build our stigma across all of our messaging, our portfolios, whether that's on print, social media, working with our partners to get them the right materials and resources. So that includes, posters, social media posts, lots of digital resources. And to Bernice's point of working with women and specifically Black women, Black women and PrEP, we actually have a new campaign component called She's Well, which is PrEP for women, focused on really highlighting that PrEP is for women as well. And we've also recently launched a companion kind of piece to that in Spanish called Saña y Bororosa. My Spanish is not that great, clearly, which translates to health and being healthy and powerful. So a Spanish version of our She's Well, which is focused again on PrEP for women. So I'll put that in the chat. I can't fully multitask and put it in the chat while talking with you on my phone here, but wanted to share that. And our campaign again has been a national campaign. Correct. Thanks, Cynthia. So it's been a campaign that's been around for 10 years. It used to be called Act Against AIDS, if anyone's familiar with it. And it has through the years transitioned to Let's Stop HIV Together. And again, has these main components. And we are working to be, if you do follow us or are familiar with our campaign, we follow real life stories, real life, journeys. And we seek participants to share their story with us wherever they may be, and create our messaging through that. So happy to connect with anybody, and I'll put our resources in our chat for anyone to share. And what we are working on, like I've mentioned some of the things, but we are in development of creating a stigma framework that we hope to provide and make available to partners, et cetera. So that is coming up in the next couple of months. And we also have, in terms of stigma specific things, we have pledge cards that we've created that are customizable for people to use in person, like at conferences, in their communities, with friends and families, et cetera, that are available online.
Thanks, Trang. Let me just interrupt before the next person. The person whose square says Katrina Whiteside, we can hear your background conversation. You might not want us to be hearing it. Thank you so much, Trang, and do put things in the chat. It sounds like that's really relevant to a lot of people. The person whose square says Unboxed with Wes, you have your hand up. What are you working on or in need from the group? How can we help?
Hi, I'm Wes at Casey Care. We're here in Kansas City, Missouri, and I work on a grant called Health Education Risk Reduction for White Men Who Have Sex with Men. And my cohort, Tawana, works on the same grant, but her priority population is African-American females and transgender individuals. And so we got together early this year and worked on a way to reach gatekeepers in our community. So that would be faith leaders, business owners, individuals that we reach out to about like places to set up for condoms, our condom kits, or to have conversations about, HIV stigma and testing in their community and what that looks like. So what we did was we created Partners in Prevention. So it's a 3-part workshop that individuals are able to participate in. Our first portion is over we use plain language when we're talking to them, but I think we're in a pretty good group where I can say like biomedical interventions, and we discuss like HIV criminalization, HIV stigma. We create scenarios based off of CDC trainings to to really elevate some of that conversation so we can discuss what stigma looks like in their community and how they would address it. And by doing that,
Hello,
we
Fausto. Hi, it's Taide Mejias from Prevention 305. How are you?
Hold on one second. Someone was
everything
speaking,
good.
Thank you so much. Please, Wes, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, so no, you're fine. So by doing that, we create like these real world examples and break into groups and have opportunities for people to discuss like what does that stigma look like and how should I address that or how can I navigate that conversation so that these individuals are empowered to share this information and hopefully support individuals in their community that are living with HIV or maybe that are worried about getting tested and what that looks like to put condoms out and what does that mean. And so, we sort of reduce some of those like anxieties or stigma. So our hope, this was our first trial this year. So our hope is next year is that we have more individuals engage. Currently, we've had 75 people participate in our workshop. We didn't have anybody sign up for one. That's okay. Like we're excited that we were able to do it and looking forward to next year as well.
Okay, great. So just to remind, our interest group has a monthly meeting over Zoom and also an email group that we can stay in touch. I've put in the chat my email address that if anybody is interested who's not already part of it, feel free to send me an email and I will send you the details. Or, feel free to put yours in the chat and we'll collect those before we all sign off. But the idea was that every time we meet, people want to exchange ideas and help each other and learn from each other. So that's what we're trying to do here, kind of spontaneously. A few more, thanks, Marcia. A few more minutes to, are there other things that people are working on? Projects, campaigns, efforts that you're looking for connections or that you want others to know about? And I don't know, Julia, let's see, I've lost your square there was a time where I thought you were wanting to speak, but I've lost where your square is, so maybe I'm wrong. Who else wants to say something? Something you're working on?
I can jump in. Hello, everyone. My name is Deasia Lee. I'm with the Southern AIDS Coalition. And something we're really interested in doing is funding grassroots organizations to provide interventions that focus on internalized stigma or even any campaigns or focus groups, billboards, podcasts, things like that. So we're really in the realm of HIV and persons live with AIDS. So if you're doing any work and you want support and you're in the Deep South, we prioritize rural communities. So any nonprofit organization in the Deep South that services rural communities and you're interested in HIV work and ending HIV stigma, I'm definitely interested in talking to you and connecting with you.
Cool. That's great. So maybe we'll try a little bit of a different angle. The other question that we came up with was, as you're listening to just a few of our colleagues, community members talking about what they're doing, and you can see there's 69 people on this, so there's lots of others who haven't had a chance to say anything. But as you're listening to what people are saying, what resources or connections come to your mind that might be supportive to their efforts? Is there like a book or an author you think they just absolutely should look up, or a connection you can offer, something you think they might be looking for? What resources can we offer each other? I will add one thing, which is that my area has been working on internalized stigma in the area of mental health and how we internalize the negative messages about psychiatric diagnostic labels, about mental health services, and all the harm that that does, which is on top of and interacting with all of the other challenges and, I don't know, marginalized identities and oppression that people often labor under. And so I've developed a number of kind of practical programs, presentations, handouts about strategies for eroding the power of internalized stigma. And yes, it comes from a mental health angle, but I've gotten feedback that it might be useful in other areas as well, or translatable. So I'm Alicia, and that's something that if would be useful to you, I'd be happy to share. Are there other, whether it's a recommendation or something you yourself can offer, or just something you think people really should look up that would help somebody you've heard today? Please either put it, in the chat or just unmute yourself and introduce yourself and please let us know. Or I guess if there are things, Marsha put, I have found the YouTube videos helpful and positive. Marsha, are there certain like words that you've been searching under that have turned up the most useful ones, or certain names or authors or channels that you could recommend to help people find them?
Well, basically, I usually look for women, and only because I'm a woman and I wanted to kind of find out more about how other women are handling themselves health-wise and what they're doing. Just trying to understand, just navigating through this whole thing. So there's a woman by the name of Jennifer, and I don't know her last name, but if you go under HIV/AIDS under YouTube, you'll find her, and she has started interviewing people and talking about how they found out, how they navigate their illness and what they do. But I don't think I think that that's something specific. I will just make a general comment in terms, this is my first time joining this conference, and I had a lot of trepidation. I didn't know if I wanted to come out of my little hole. I didn't know if people were going to take pictures of me. I didn't know what was going to happen. And the first thing that disturbed me, and I know it wasn't intentional, was on the sign up, it says, "Are you HIV positive?" And I'm like, oh my God, this is a stigma conference. I'm already being asked to come out of the closet, and some people are out, and I really appreciate them because they give me strength, but others, we're not quite there yet. So maybe to reframe that question and to maybe ask, if you'd like to tell us that, if you are an outward speaker, you don't have to, something like that.
Sure, right, to be welcoming.
I can speak on that super quick since I'm the person who wrote the question. It's a question we never used to ask because we didn't really feel like that was important for the conference. But we get a lot of questions from sponsors and other people interested in the conference that before they support our event or be a part of our event, they're very curious to know, well, what percentage of your population is this, or what percentage is that? So because of that, we decided to ask it. I mean, most of the questions on there are optional. You can still register, at least that's how it's supposed to be set up. You can still register if you skip that question. But that was the rationale for starting to include that, just so that we could have an idea, of those types of figures.
Well, thank you for answering that. I mean, I felt, because I've done research, that it was some sort of monitoring or something that you're trying to get totals and numbers. And honestly, quite frankly, it made me not want to answer, just the mere fact that I was trying to figure out what were these numbers being used for. So having said that, with you responding, I guess one way to handle that is to say, and these are just comments really, I'm not mad, but these are just comments. One way is to say, the reason we ask this question is because we get, funding, or people are asking us something like what you just said. That's the only reason I'm saying that.
Right, put a little more explanation right next to the question.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I just want to draw people's attention also, one second, sorry, to the fact that a couple people have put really interesting things in the chat. Harm reduction accounts on Instagram, and the Refugee Support Group Association in Uganda. So there's some great things to look at there. But anyway, sorry, someone was speaking. Please go ahead.
I was just going to interject for anyone who's had those same apprehensions. I don't know how many conferences or things of this nature that you attend. That question is not uncommon for conferences of this type. Um, and just so you know that answering that question, you're in a safe space when you come to these conferences because there are so many people like myself who are HIV positive that attend these conferences. And I thank you for answering that question because it's important uh, that people who sponsor these type of conferences so that we can get the information that we need disseminated amongst as many people as possible, that you have these numbers. It's important for those of us who are positive to answer that question um, freely and honestly and know that we're in a safe space and it's okay to answer.
And I appreciate that, but also I think, as someone answered previously, that it's okay if you don't want to answer it, and also to give the reason, the rationale as to why you are asking the question. Because as I said, I almost didn't register when I saw that. I just became nervous. I don't know. I was
Yeah.
already pensive about it. So it's just a point I
Yeah.
was.
No, it's a complicated issue for sure. There's a couple other people who are wanting to speak. I think Calvin and then Rick, I see your hand. I wasn't sure. Calvin, were you still wanting to say something? And yes, okay. So Rick, go ahead. Sorry to make you wait.
Well, no, it's okay. Marsha, I wanted to say thank you because you raised the very same question that came to my mind just before this year's campaign. I thought we're asking people to take a picture of themselves, send it in to share their story. And I thought, isn't that a point of privilege that you're asking people to out themselves? But actually, one of the pictures that we featured on the cover this year was simply a picture of a hand. And it was a picture of somebody who's a farm worker in Central California. And she wanted to be a part of the campaign, even though she did not feel free to share, to show her face. And we included that picture as one of the covers because the message we wanted to send was that everyone living with HIV needs to be seen, even the people who can't bring themselves to share this part of their lives with the people around them. And so we've, one of the most touching pictures we had in recent years was of somebody in South America. He was in Brazil and he was holding hands with his mother as they were dancing. And so it was just a picture of the two hands clasped. But the power was the story behind that seemingly anonymous picture. And we want everyone to be seen, even those who feel that they have to hide that part of themselves.
That I really appreciate it. As I said, I'm not at the activist level yet. I want to do more, but I'm getting over my own feelings.
It's a journey. It's a journey. We've had pictures from people over the years who their first picture was maybe them like this, seriously, hiding a part of their face. There are a number of people like that who've taken part in a day with HIV. And gradually over the years, they show more of themselves to the point where there was one picture of this woman. She was standing on a public transit platform coming out of a Yankees game. And she was just joyful that she could finally share, be out and open. But she didn't start off that way. It's a journey.
Gotcha. This is the most helpful part of the conference to me. I want to cry. Thank you so much.
Well, do you know, and not just yourself, Marsha, thank you so much for speaking up, because I am certain that there are many of us who have similar thoughts and aren't, just for whatever reason, aren't able or aren't
on my desktop. Woohoo!
And
I don't know. I reset my password.
Kim, we can hear your background. Kim Lockett, we can hear your background conversation. Just so you know. And I see you, Takesha. I'll just finish my thought here that I just want to say, Marcia, you're voicing things that many other people also feel, I'm quite certain. And don't forget that there is the sort of community pages on the conference website to connect as well. And so, oh gosh, things have shifted again. Takesha, the squares. I didn't see your last name. Takesha, you wanted to speak. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Takesha Collins. I work for the Wacomico County Health Department. I per se don't have any experience or with having HIV, but I know with mental health, it's the same stigma. I have ADHD, and you don't really want to communicate with people telling them you take medicine for that or you have a mental health issue, because then you could get labeled as crazy, or especially your employers, you don't want to let them know. But I know with that, sometimes you become chatty. So I found myself, as more conferences I attend or I see more things are acceptable, I feel free of sharing that part. And I know people in recovery at their job, when I first started, would never share that they're in recovery, but now they're open to share because the stigma, what everybody's doing is also helping reduce stigma, not just for certain diseases, but mental health and, all spectrums of things that are, people could have. So to make them feel quote unquote normal. That's all I say.
Yeah, thank you. And I see that I just want to piggyback on your comments, because I see that yet more people have joined late in the game. And just want to say, you found the Internalized Stigma Interest Group. And as Takesha was saying, we focus on helping each other address the issue of internalized stigma across a range of life challenges. And I would say that the people who are most active tend to be in HIV and mental health, but other things as well. So it's really around that issue that, and the both distinct experiences and the common principles that we try to support each other's work. So thank you for bringing that together, Takesha. Let's see, I guess we'll do that plug again for the panel at the end, Emily, but in the last little bit of this conversation hour, for those of you who haven't been here, rather than having some sort of business meeting, we really wanted to try, and thank you for participating in the experiment of creating, a networking opportunity around this common interest in internalized stigma. But we wanted to spend the last few minutes in a little bit of a different kind of invitation to invite you to try something a little bit different. Likely, I imagine we all have experienced that a conference or a workshop gives us lots of ideas, and then when it ends, daily life kind of sweeps back in and can swamp all of those, sparkly ideas or those meaningful connections, and it can be hard to hold on to them. And I myself find that particularly true in virtual conferences, where I don't get to take myself out of my daily routine. So with her permission, we've adopted a personal exercise that Hope, who has been involved in the interest group and is here on the call, uses in the anti-stigma workshop that she offers. And we have adopted it quite a bit, but for this. So this is just an idea of writing ourselves something that will help us remember something we don't want to let get swamped by daily life when it re-enters, when we re-enter it. So we encourage everybody to get out whatever you use to make yourself reminders. A Post-it note, the reminder app on your phone, your planner, your favorite Padlet, the wall next to you where you're sitting, and a pencil, whatever works for you. Sidewalk chalk. Take a minute and get something out that you like to use for reminders. And then reflect on, we just invite you, this is of course optional, it's just an invitation to reflect on 3 questions. Not just reflect, but also write it down. The first question is, whether from this last hour or anywhere else in the conference, what is one person or idea that you most want to follow up with after the conference is over? And that's just writing it down so that on tomorrow, Friday, next week, when you look at it, you'll be reminded of that. What one person or idea do you most want to follow up with after this meeting, the whole conference? And it could come from today, or it can come from this session, or it can come from yesterday. The second one is, do I have what I need to do that follow-up? If not, what do I need? And you can post that need in the chat. Like maybe there's someone that you really would like to follow up with, but they haven't posted their email. We could send them a message either here or in the conference app asking if they'd be willing to connect. Or maybe somebody mentioned something, but you didn't catch the author or something. So what do I have? Do I have what I need to do that follow-up that I want to? And if not, we have a few minutes that maybe we can help you get that. And the third one is a bit more introspective. Thinking about the past hour's conversation, whether you were speaking or typing or listening, all of the three, I hope. What do I need to acknowledge about myself and anti-stigma work, and why? Again, write it down. We're not going to ask you to share these. It's okay if somebody wants to comment, but this is really more of a self-care exercise than anything. What do I need most to acknowledge about myself and anti-stigma work? And that can be personal work, or it can be global work. It can be anywhere in between, and why? What do I want to remind myself about? And again, write it down. The pencil on the wall next to the chair you're sitting on, or your planner, or your phone, whatever works. So as you're doing these, if you choose to, and you want to call something out or post it on the chat, feel free. If you need something that would help you follow through, feel free to voice it or post it. But really the point is to pin it down in writing, a couple of things that you want to take away from this conversation and or other ones that you've been part of. Because especially virtual conferences can be tough in terms of holding on to those new connections. So are there anything that people want to share? Again, no pressure at all. And yes, I'm sorry, but the person under St. Elmo Crawford, I forgot your actual name. And yes, we are fully planning to end in a few minutes at 5 till. And Samin, welcome to Afghanistan as well. We are so glad to have you join us. Emily, will you give another plug for things as people are working, and then we can, I see Rick, you want to share something, we will do that before we go as well. But Emily, would you just remind people at the panel again?
Sure thing. So on Thursday at 9:30 a.m., this group has planned and will be hosting a panel comprised of a few speakers, and Rick is one of our amazing speakers. So we'll get to hear more about his Day with HIV campaign and see some more photos. And then we also have a few other speakers touching on different parts of internalized stigma. So we have speakers that are going to be talking about mental health internalized stigma, research, experiences, personal experiences, advocacy work, and intersectionality in internalized stigma. So the title for the panel is Internalized Stigma, Dangers, Resilience, and Intersectionality, and it is under Research Plenary 3 on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and we hope that you'll join us.
All right, so we had 3 questions, or our suggestion was you might want to write some things down to remind yourself. What one person or idea do you most want to follow up with after the meeting? What do you have what you need to do that? And if not, what do you need? So the group might be able to help you get that. And then thinking about this hour's conversation, other things you want to acknowledge about myself and anti-stigma work, and why is that important? Again, not asking you to share, but in the last few minutes, if anybody wants to unmute and share, then please do. One of the great things about is there a link for the session she just mentioned? Yes, it's in the agenda for the conference under the time tomorrow, Thursday at 9:30. The link is there in the conference agenda. I'm just responding to Lilibeth's comment in the chat. And then we'll once again just remind that you know, this is a group that tries to meet monthly. Oh, I'm sorry, I've run over you, Rick. What did you want to say?
No, I was actually just fixing my glasses, but something I did want to say was in response to your more introspective question, something I keep discovering is that I can always be more patient and mindful of other people. And again, going back to what Marcia said, you know, to always be mindful that there are people who feel that they do have to hide themselves, or at least hide a part of themselves. And we always need to make sure that everybody is seen, including the people who feel that they have to hide.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a lovely way to finish things up. We were asked and we wanted to end a few minutes before the top of the hour because of people needing transition time. And so we'll do that. I put just one more time my email in the chat in case anybody wants to be connected to this group that is not already, and be on our email group where we do exchange some ideas, and then our monthly conversation meetings. Feel free to write to me, and I will add you. Between myself, Emily, and Joe, we will manage to keep it going. And again, if anybody's interested in a more active role of helping organize this group, we are very open to that as well, and we should talk. So thanks, everybody. Take care of yourself, and we will see you at the other parts of the conference. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.